Happy Monday. It's time to talk about those charts with Mr. Dan Murrell. We're going to look at the box office, Dan.
Yes, we are. Not much to look at, if I'm being honest.
The truth is we know who won the Super Bowl, but who really lost is Hollywood this weekend because the box office did not perform well. Some people are postulating this is weather related, which certainly there's inclement weather throughout the United States at the moment.
It certainly didn't help. The Super Bowl is always bad. Although there have been some movies. The Hannah Montana movie made about $30 million on Super Bowl weekend. It's the first Taken movie did well on Super Bowl weekend.
Which is interesting because then you would be like, oh, it's counter-programming, but Taken isn't necessarily counter-programming.
Yeah, it's hit or miss. But this was, even by Super Bowl weekend standards, a very bad weekend, capping off one of the worst Januaries. It was technically February, but coming on the heels of one of the worst Januaries in about 7 years. You have to go back to 2011, and I think this was the worst weekend for the box office, period, in about 2 years. So yeah, not a great weekend financially.
Not a great weekend financially, and what's really interesting about that is that we're coming off of a record-breaking year last year at the box office. Yeah. Certainly we have a number of films this year which could heavily increase what this year's totals are in the form of Avengers Endgame, in the form of Star Wars Episode 9, among other things. That said, I think that what Universal was imagining was that Glass was going to go into this sweet spot and then just dominate financially. And it's certainly doing fine.
Yeah, it's doing good.
I don't think it's doing the kind of numbers that some people originally anticipated that it may.
Maybe not.
But it's hanging in number one.
It's number one at Threepeats, the first movie since you have to go all the way back to Aquaman to find a movie that Threepeat. It's just a joke.
2 months ago.
It's a three-peat, but it's a three-peat. Just like, but it's still doing good. It's closing in on $100 million. It went over $200 million worldwide. If these were usual big-budget movie numbers, that would be like, ooh. But again, as a reminder, it costs about $20 million to make and probably another 30 to 40 to market. Even still, it's going to do just fine.
It's doing great. And cost, by the way, M. Night self-financed that $20 million. He had a lot of financial stake, but also a lot of creative leeway in this film.
Yes.
The upside is actually doing a little bit better than I think people might have originally anticipated that one would do.
The upside's holding really well. I think the last 2 weeks have talked about how comedy numbers, you have a comedy hold. Another one this week, another drop right around 25%. When you're getting into week 3, week 4 of a movie, for it to still be doing those kind of numbers, it shows that an audience is either discovering it or going back to see it. We'll see. It's obviously it opened lower than Glass, so it has a lower gross. But over time, it's possible that it could get pretty close domestically to the gross of Glass.
Which is pretty interesting. We'll talk about worldwide in a minute. Miss Bala, unfortunately, is looking to be a pretty big disappointment, if not a all-out flop for Sony.
Well, it depends on how it does. Reported budget around it was about $15 million. That's not terrible. It opened at about
did not like
7.
This.
Critics did not like it. Audiences gave it a B cinema score, which is okay, not great. So the only thing that could save it is its budget. Catherine Hardwicke directed it, reportedly had a budget around $15 million. So if it can get out to, let's say, 20, 25 domestically, and then if it can do the same amount, let's say 20, 25 worldwide, that'd be about $50 million off a $15 million budget. That's not great.
Plus another 10 to 15 in marketing.
Yeah. I'm just saying, you're not lining your pockets with the money, but there's a path to at least breaking even, only because the budget is low. Even for Super Bowl weekend, again, probably not what the studio would have wanted this
Probably not. And the other thing is that we're talking about Lego Movie 2 is about to come at it. We're starting to head into a season. I'm really looking forward to Happy Death Day 2. I actually think that one could perform pretty well. So I don't know. I've seen the film. It's a remake of a popular film. It's yeah, you're right. It's got a low budget. So there you go. Who knows? It may track along. Some people are saying it may only make as much as 15. We will see. That is yet to be determined. But you know what is not yet to be determined? Aquaman is an unabashed, massive, bonkers, banana pants success. Dan,
it's doing great. It continues to do great. We'll have an update on the 2018 chart. There was a little bit of movement from Aquaman, but I mean, what's left to say other than it is a bona fide smash hit and continues to be that.
Is it left to say Fishman makes big splash, or have we said that enough times?
I don't know. I guess we've said it once now, so that might be
the last.
That might be
the
good.
One and only
Yeah,
time.
I think that's good.
Let's just end it there. Dan, we had high hopes that Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse would have legs, and guess what?
It had 8 of them. It has 8 spider legs. No, Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse is holding really, really well. I was looking at when we came back. I had the graphics showing however the multiples were for each movie.
Yeah.
And Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse
I'm
was
still smiling because that was fun and corny.
Yes, it was fun. Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse was around 4 times its opening. It's now getting closer to 6 times its opening. Out of every movie that was released, it has one of the better multiples based off of its opening weekend. And it is spending its 8th week in the top 5, which you do have to go back a little bit to find another movie that did that, and that would be Black Panther. Black Panther was the last film to spend 8 weeks in the top 5. If Aquaman hits the top 5 again next week, it will also have spent 8 weeks in the top 5.
Yeah.
But, Threepeats you see often, but a movie spending 7, 8, 9, 10 weeks in the top 5, that's the hallmark of a film that's really hitting with audience and has stuck around. That's what Spider-Man achieved this week. And it had a great week. A lot of achievements. The first being... The Annies.
Swept.
It swept the Annies. I think it went 7 for 7.
Yeah.
It was nominated for an Oscar, obviously, last week. It's a very likely
probably
Oscar in its future. It's probably going to win. And then it also became Sony Pictures Animation's top grossing film domestically, not worldwide, but domestically. It beats out Hotel Transylvania 2. So now, as far as Sony Pictures Animation in the U.S., Spider-Man is their top grossing title. Obviously, they've already announced it. There's going to be a sequel, but I am with you, Roth. I'm very happy to see the movie that opened okay. It opened pretty well. Has really, audiences have found it. They're responding to it. And again, the buzz around it isn't going to go away because
it's only going to increase.
It's likely going to win the Oscar in a couple of weeks. And if Sony decides to keep it around in theaters, I don't know if it's not going to hit number 1 or anything, but it could very well get up there toward $200 million plus, which would be awesome and great.
Yeah, you want to be objective about these things, but sometimes you do have a favorite child.
Yeah.
And Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is a great film. It came out in a mad rush of competition, but I think we believed and hoped that over time it would have legs, that it would find its audience, and it is getting the awards accolades that it needs to boost that and kind of to boost, especially in the mainstream audience is going to want to catch up and see those Oscar films as much as they can.
Yes, indeed.
Top per screen. You talked a little bit, I think, about Never Look Away last week.
I did. It was a surprise Oscar nominee in a couple of categories, and we talked about the similarities between this and the director's one of his previous films, which was The Lives of Others, which upset a heavily favorite Pan's Labyrinth for Best Foreign Film. It's in a very similar situation this year with Roma. I don't necessarily think it's going to happen again, but it was just a weird coincidence. But yeah, it's a second week, top per screen, still on one screen, 19K. Second place doing really good business also was Arctic, starring Mads Mikkelsen. And I had to do a little PSA because I got it mixed up in my head. There's a movie called Arctic starring Mads Mikkelsen that is in limited theatrical release. And I was thinking in my head, like, well, why do we get box office numbers for that? Because Netflix doesn't release their numbers. I was thinking of a different movie because there's a movie called Polar, also starring Mads Mikkelsen, that just hit Netflix. So if you're like me and you're easily confused, Arctic and Polar, both starring Mads Mikkelsen, but only Polar's on Netflix and Arctic is the one in theaters.
I'm hearing really, really good things about Arctic, by the way. It's being described as, well, I described it this way, John Wick in snow.
Okay.
But have you seen it
I don't think
yet?
you should have dimed yourself out there. I think you could have started like, it's being described as John Wick in
really?
snow.
It is.
By you.
Now that it's been said, it's being described as John Wick in snow.
Exactly. I have not seen it.
John Wick Snow. We should move on.
Okay. I have not seen it. I want to. I have a long list of movies to see. I've been doing a lot of traveling and stuff, so I'm going to have many, many movies to catch up on. But that's on my list.
Well, thank you for clarifying the difference between Arctic and Polar.
I got very confused by that. I'm not lying.
I would be too.
Yeah.
We should probably watch both and do a little comparison one of these weeks.
I agree.
You know why I'm peanut butter and jealous right now? Because a lot of people have seen How to Train Your Dragon 3 and we haven't.
That's right. It's rolling out pretty much all over the world, or in many, many markets across the world before it opens here. It picked up another $40 million worldwide. As a matter of fact, How to Train Your Dragon, the Hidden Hidden World, sorry, I just have it down as How to Train Your Dragon 3 on my sheet, was the top grossing movie worldwide over the weekend, over $40 million. It opened in several markets, including the UK, Mexico, South Africa. It's still a couple weeks, though, before we see it here in the US, but it's doing really well. It's going to be over $100 million in the bank before it even hits the screens here stateside. So good for How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah.
It's burning up all over the globe.
Toothless has teeth at the box office.
It
I don't know
does.
what's wrong with me today. Spencer taught us, fun fact, or he taught me, you might have already known this, that marketing wise, they don't like to have like the number of the sequel on it, and they instead do the colon other subtitle because people don't feel intimidated if they haven't seen the first couple.
They feel like they can just jump in.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if that's true, but it sounds right.
It sounds right if you're a marketing person.
Yes, exactly.
Glass comes in number 2 worldwide.
Glass, number 2, like I said, it passed $200 million worldwide. That's the 8th M. Night Shyamalan film to do so, but I looked up the numbers on this. Split had a budget of about $9 million. Glass has a budget of about $20 million. If you look at the worldwide combined grosses, those two films alone have grossed about $500 million combined worldwide off of a combined budget of about 30.
Wow.
So M. Night and Blumhouse they're just making money.
Yeah.
Literally, they're making money at this point.
That's how he gets to sell finest $20 million.
Yeah.
Right?
He, I'm sure, hopefully had a nice little piece of the pie on Split, and they're good money makers. They make a lot of money.
I wonder what his points were in the previous films.
That's a good question. They were big studio movies, so probably not as much. I think he probably, strangely, had a little more clout to negotiate back-end stuff and points on these smaller films, because there was certainly, in the case of Split, much lower expectations as far as what's it going to do.
Yeah.
$200 million worldwide? No way.
Yeah.
No, here you go.
And there you go. Also, that's the Blumhouse model, and that's why they were able to get a lot of Ethan Hawke, for example.
Yep.
Yeah, because they give points not only to the creatives on and off screen. A lot of times that's part of their, that Jason Blum.
It's a good producer.
He's a smart guy.
He's a smart guy and a good producer.
You know, Dan, I unfortunately missed the description of my now number 1 most anticipated film of the season, Extreme Job, and I'd like you to walk us through this magic, if you will.
Sure. As you can see, Extreme Job, which is a film from Korea, is again the number 3 grosser. Actually, week over week, it made a little bit more in its second week, which is great for that film. It is at number 3. And yes, Roth, you weren't here last week. And for any of our viewers that missed last week's show, I would just like to read the synopsis of Extreme Job again, because this sounds like the greatest movie of all time. A team of narcotics detectives goes undercover in a fried chicken joint to stake out an organized crime gang. But things take an unexpected turn when the detective's chicken recipe suddenly transforms the rundown restaurant into the hottest eatery in town. I have to see this movie.
I have to see this movie. When is it coming here?
I don't know. Hopefully soon.
It's basically like Breaking Bad's Gus story, only reversed.
Yes.
And I just love everything about it. When do we get this chicken movie? And will the chickens be nominated on our list of Oscar nominees next year?
We'll find out. So Extreme Job holding strong. Green Book opened in several major European markets this past weekend. It comes in at number 4. And then there is a French film. It's there on the screen. I'm not going to embarrass myself, or quite frankly the French, by trying to pronounce it. I will just tell you about it. It is a sequel to a film that came out. The translated title for English-speaking markets was Serial or Bad Weddings. Basically, it's about a family who has 4 daughters, and each of the 4 daughters marry a different guy from a different background, and it's sort of like a mishmash of culture, comedy. It was a massive worldwide hit, over, I think, $170 million a few years ago when it came out. The sequel came out this past weekend, and it takes the number 5 spot as far as worldwide grossers. And again, I could try to pronounce it, but I honestly, I think it would be insulting to the French.
Yeah.
Not to mention embarrassing to me personally.
Do you want to do just bon Dieu?
Bon Dieu.
Bon Dieu.
Those are the last 2 words.
Yes. Well, there's an effort's been made, and I think that counts for something.
I think it counts for something. I think not making the effort should count more than me embarrassing myself by trying to pronounce that. But number 5 on the worldwide grossing list. Thank you. Check it out if you can.
I would like to check that out. Extreme Job is a little more a little higher on my priority
That's
list,
true.
if I'm honest. Hey, let's talk about the year in charts.
The year in charts. First of all, I know we're already now into February of 2019, but I still have one eye on 2018, and I'm glad that I did because there was a big change that happened over the weekend. We mentioned Aquaman. Aquaman jumps over Deadpool 2. It is now the 5th highest grossing movie of the year domestically in the US. I believe it is still the 5th highest grossing movie of the year worldwide. So again, Aquaman, big hit. That's where it's going to be. It's going to stay at number 5. It's not going to make another $100 million to get up there with Jurassic World, but still, it's a top 5 hit in the US. It's a top 5 hit worldwide, and that makes it a top 5 hit pretty much everywhere.
Yeah.
So there you go. Great job. Great news for Aquaman. And for 2019, the worldwide chart, here's the domestic chart. Glass stays on the top. It's nearing $100 million. The Upside, Escape Room. We're going to fill this chart out. We're going to tell you what's coming out, but this chart's going to be very much more filled out after this past weekend because there's several more releases. Escape Room, A Dog's Way Home, Dragon Ball Super. No real movement except for Miss Bala jumps in at number 8, and Replicas jumps down at number 9. It'll be gone next week. And then if you look at the worldwide chart, Glass is also number 1 there. As I mentioned, over $200 million. Dragon Ball Super, which some people count toward 2018 because it technically opened in some markets, namely Japan in 2018. It's counting here for 2019. Escape Room. How to Train Your Dragon 3 takes a big jump due to its strong opening. White Snake, The Big Shot, Extreme Job, Malmöi, those are all Chinese and Korean films that are on the list. We'll see how they hold up against the Hollywood Fair. And then, you have movies like A Dog's Way Home that are mixed in there. Escape Room, look at that. That's going to crack $100 million worldwide. That is a big, big, big success for that film and the way that that movie's budgeted. Again, showing you can have a mid-size hit here in the U.S. If you add worldwide to it, it becomes a huge hit. And that's what you see with Escape Room. And unfortunately for The Kid Who Would Be King,
not so much.
Not so much. I still need to see it, and I hope by the time I'm able to go and watch it that it's still in theaters because I've heard great things.
Me too.
But not a film that seems to be connecting to an audience, unfortunately.
I know. I need to see it as well. We need to do our part, and I'm hearing great things as well. Escape Room, luckily for them, they actively set up the exact sequel at the end of the movie.
They did indeed.
If you'll recall.
So I'm sure that's the sequel that we'll be seeing.
We will likely be seeing something along those lines. This week, we have to look forward to the Lego Movie 2.
This week is we have 4. It's all of the releases they didn't put out. What Men Want, which is of course a flipped version of what Women Want with Mel Gibson and Helen Hunt from like 20 years ago.
Yeah, early 90s.
Now we have Taraji P. Henson and Tracy Morgan are headlining that, or at least as far as the marketing goes. What Men Want, The Prodigy, which is a horror movie, and a trailer that scares the crap out of me. So I'm going in with one strike against it because I don't like to be scared. Not really. I'll give it a shot. Lego Movie 2, which you mentioned, should have a pretty good opening. Yeah. And then Cold Pursuit, which is Liam Neeson's new movie, which will be interesting to track.
Yes, it will.
We'll see what happens.
We will see what happens.
We were going to do a countdown to that movie on this show because I saw the trailer and I was like, that looks like it could be my favorite bad movie of the year. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens at the box office.
No words.
This weekend.
No words and no idea.
Yeah, these are some words. We will be seeing the Lego Movie 2 this week, and we will be coming at you with a review of that film
later this week.
So you guys should look out for that. We will be talking about all of the box office things next Monday. And what else, Dan?
That's
it's been good charting with you.
Yeah,
I've missed you. I've missed you guys. I've missed the charts.
It's been a slow week, so next week hopefully we'll have even more to say. 4 new releases. There'll be plenty to talk about.
We're talking about movies.
Yeah. Thanks for
Lego
watching.
movies.